That's a demon. That's a demon. All right, and the entity is doing so while a stalker is remaining on the sidewalk right here. This is 2:30 in the morning, and the demon was already here while I'm documenting on podcast, sounding sirens as this demon walks by. And this is where the entity is sounding plane activity and stops sounding plane activity the moment that I reach in my pocket to get my phone to document the fact that at 2:30 a.m., the entity is monitoring me with the Ontario International Airport plane engines, and that's a raging psychopath. That's a demon-possessed person of the Ontario Police Department that is being disbanded because of the severe mental illness that entire department has been closeting while they're engaging in what is criminal activity that is relevant to the demon possession that they are all concealing. It's not concealed anymore. Their criminal activity is revealing it, and the demonic environment and the demonic behavior that they practice, such as crossing path in the engineered light in concert with the demon possessed that are in that same exact specific environment, and the environment where the entity is engaging in what is deviating from the operations of a legitimate airport, stalking at 325 West G Street, 320 West G Street, where the people of the state are gang stalking in the specific environment where you see the shadow of the vehicle that's driving by behind the street. That's demonic. That was a demon. Ontario Police Department is being disbanded for the demon possession that I am exposing to the world because it's inspiring the criminal activity of federal group stalking and monitoring, gang stalking, which is demonic activity. And this light activity is directly relevant to the demon possession that you just witnessed by the Ontario Police Department. Stalking in very close proximity. While I'm recording on my podcast, that demon did not drive from a far distance. They're engaging in surveillance while the entity is maintaining plane activity right here. With every move that I make right here while I'm sleeping, stalking a woman that's sleeping outside. Okay, it's not about the fact that I'm not sleeping on the inside in a mansion. It's the fact that they're demons and they know who I am. And they also are engaging in gang stalking in that same specific environment. The entity sounding plane engines, monitoring me. That's why they stopped sounding engines the moment I reach in my pocket to start recording that evidence that's disbanding that police department and shutting down that airport that's engaged in domestic terrorism. And then the entity begins in what is criminal summoning while that demon on a walker paces by, maintaining activity creation around me, coming out of nowhere, stalking in the path like I stated the demon possessed do the moment that I engage in movement. Stop sounding plane engines because they don't want that recorded at 2:30 in the morning. The demons resume criminal summoning and do it at the same time that a demon arrives out of nowhere walking by me. You'll see that taken in the pictures. As I'm recording that documentation, this demon, that psychopath, is going down a residential street and there's no emergency. The entity sounds sirens with regard to criminal summoning, and the entity is crossing path in the specific environment under the fake moon. This is where the fake sun is in the morning. This is the same G Street. This is where the fake moon is in the morning. And the entity is doing so, and the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking, and they're exhibiting their demon possession. And the evidence of gang stalking is the exposure of demon possession by that police department that is being disbanded. Okay? This is P.O.C. Now, this is what the entity was doing at 2:29 a.m., okay, where the entity is sounding plane engines at my every minor, most minute movement, and they're doing it in engineered light. Now, these are the psychopaths that are proving that they're stalking in planes and in police vehicles. And the entity engages in what is obviously unlawful conduct in order to rebut whatever it is that I just stated. But guess what? There are no planes from Terminal 2 and Terminal 4 taking off that would be competing with the sound of my voice, that will be taking off at 320 West G Street, or 325 West G Street, that would engage in any sort of hovering, any sort of low flight over these houses as though the airport is right here at Euclid and they're taking off right here, because that's what they're doing when they're taking off from the airport. Now, because the entity does not want plane engines recorded, that's exactly what they decided not to sound and resumed with sirens. Now, because the psychopaths are engaged in focusing on trying to make it look like I'm not making up anything, and it will never be planes taking off at 325 West G Street. Taking off, sounding plane activity at 325 West G Street is the same conduct, which is immediately suspect because there are no planes that are taking off over Woodside Senior Apartments like I've already documented. There's no planes taking off over the 7-Eleven at 66 North Vine Avenue like I've already documented. There are no planes taking off over the Laurelwood Apartments like the entity is hovering over and then rising in elevation right here over me where planes are not taking off from the airport. And that's obvious. Doing it while I'm recording is audible activity creation while the demons of the Ontario Police are hiding around the corner, monitoring to that obviously incriminating activity creation, because the demon possessed are gang stalking. And that is the Ontario Police that you just saw, a raging maniac crossing path with all the lights on the vehicle. That's a demon stalking in the path with light activity that's using a police vehicle to engage in monitoring. And those are the sex offenders with the people of the state that stalk in bathrooms while they're obsessed with my vagina. They are obsessed with the vagina of the target individual, and they're obsessed with everything that I'm doing. This is why they're stalking me while I'm outside, and they are doing it in the specific environment. And while you're hearing plane engines that have nothing to do with taking off from an airport, because the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking, do not forget that you saw the shadow of the vehicle that's at a distance in the street, which is impossible light activity. Don't forget that you see 3 shadows in front of me on the ground right here while you're listening to those plane engines, and you listen to a demon sounding sirens on a police vehicle while they're engaging in surveillance overnight. Don't forget about all of those relevant facts regarding the environment and that which is not the natural environment either, because I've already shown you the fake sun remaining over me within 0.4 miles, not going beyond the Starbucks and the Ovid Family Community Library on one street. Euclid Avenue runs north and south. The entity did not move anywhere in the direction west with the fake sun, and this is where the fake sun remains over me, and this is where the fake moon is, where the demon possessed are engaged in focusing on me, stalking me, monitoring me, and the Ontario Police are filled with demons who are demonstrating it. That was criminal summoning in the engineered environment where the airport is stalking with planes over the residential houses at Fern and G Street, in the specific environment where my shadows and the shadows of vehicles are appearing on the walls behind me, where the demon-possessed people of the state have already shown what they are. They're monitoring. That's P.O.C. The Ontario Police's demon possession is being widely exposed because it's relevant to criminal monitoring, the conduct that they're engaging in, which is unconstitutional. And it's also mentally ill behavior. And this is why they're being removed from law enforcement, not just going to federal prison, not just being removed from the police department, the Ontario Police that's being disbanded. They're done with law enforcement altogether. They are a national security threat. At 2 a.m, stalking a woman, and they're not just stalking any average woman. I'm exposing their secret mental illness. It's not a secret anymore, the fact that they're all demons. And it's also not a secret, the fact that they're criminals engaging in what is stalking together, unprecedented stalking by the government. They're also violent sex offenders inherent to that pattern of conduct. And they're speeding down residential streets at 2 a.m. to monitor me. As I document it, not just monitoring me, but monitoring me while I document it to put it on the internet. And then the demon possessed sit around pacing around me all day in the library and at the Starbucks while I upload it, and they try to engage in federal stalking to stop it. This is the psychopaths engaging in the same satanic cycle under the fake sun and at night under the fake moon on a daily basis. And the airport is adding evidence there is never any takeoffs, any loud plane activity that's going to be over 325 West G Street. And there are never any lights that are going to create a group of shadows around you. This is the environment where the Ontario Police Department's demon possession is proven. And that demon possession is relevant to the truth of everything that I'm speaking. I just want you to see my shadow appearing on this sign over here, where you're looking at a demon stalking in the path while impossible light appears on the wall. They're all stalking. They're all stalking, and that demon possession is shared by the Ontario Police Department. The Ontario Police are demonstrating their demon possession. Those demons are driving police vehicles, and they're being yanked out of all of them. And the 2 that you saw under the fake sun at 11:08 a.m. on June 19, 2025, those 2 demons are going to prison. Corey Watson's going to federal prison. Nathan Morgan's going to federal prison. L. Martinez, C. Torres, and B. Hook are all going to federal prison. And those are demons that pose a threat to the public, engaging in criminal activity and engaged in committing a kidnapping. Where you see how far this is impossible light activity. And this is where the entity is stalking with planes and stalking by the Ontario Police Department, where my shadow's appearing at that distance over on the right turn only sign. That's P.O.C. This is the fake moon. And this is the Ontario International Airport gang stalking me as I walk north from the library, stalking at C Street, stalking at D Street, stalking at E Street, and this is G Street. All right, and all you have to do is engage in documentation, because the stalkers cannot conceal the fact that they're stalking. They can't conceal that. There are no planes that are taking off over 325 West G Street. Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, Frontier Airlines, Spirit Airlines, United Airlines, the entity that's engaging in what is the pattern of conduct, they're taking off from Terminals 2 and Terminal 4. The entity is flying over 4 miles and that is at a hovering distance, because when you're taking off from the airport on a plane, you are making a sharp incline up into the sky space, taking off, and that takes that's about 90 seconds when you are rising high in elevation from the airport, and there's only 2 terminals. So you are flying north over 4 miles northwest from the airport to then hover over the property where I'm at, to then engage in what is rising in elevation here, because that's supposed to be the explanation for the plane engines that you hear. Plane engines that would only be heard around the airport where they're taking off, and will not be heard perpetually throughout the city, and will not be a competition with my voice as I use my phone, will not create loud, roaring, amplified plane activity like you're hearing now, but it's happening in this environment where it's achieving monitoring. And the demons are also obvious because the shadows of their vehicles are appearing, and light is appearing on the wall behind them while they're in the street, and their headlights are not aimed this way. In addition, my shadow is appearing on the side at a distance in front of me, light that I'm being molested with. This is where plane engines that have no business, and under no circumstances, it is immediately suspect, and it is the prosecution of the Ontario Police Department. Those demons that are speeding down residential streets at 2:30 in the morning, because I'm documenting them, and have the assistant, the demon possessed, that are pacing right here in front of me, stalking, keeping me under surveillance. Because walking in this engineer light is activity creation. Sounding a train that you cannot hear in Ontario everywhere is activity creation. Sounding planes that are not taking off over the residential houses at G Street, F Street, E Street is activity creation. Keeping a fake moon and a fake sun over me during the day is the evidence of activity creation, not normal society. This is criminal monitoring. It is currently 2:45 a.m. The people of the state gang stalking with the Ontario police are going to federal prison. And the people of the state engaging in kidnapping with the Ontario police, that includes Jason Isaac Fields, maintaining a fake marriage so that he can steal property that this government sought to steal by maintaining a fake conservatorship secretly with Tracy Banks, who's engaged in gang stalking with this government that committed kidnapping. They're going to federal prison. And the unintelligent conduct that I'm documenting right now is the evidence of gang stalking that was underway on May 29th at this apartment complex right here, where I've already documented the fake sun and the fake sunset, the environment, the impossible light activity that's even inside of Tracy Banks's apartment, the multiple shadows inside of her apartment, shadows on the ceiling inside of her apartment, light all over the ceilings and behind on the depths inside of her apartment, vacillating like you see behind me inside of her apartment, the entity maintaining the fake sun over her apartment from the beginning to the end of the day, and the demon possession of the people of the state demonstrated at Woodside Senior Apartments, where they committed kidnapping and where the Ontario police is documenting gang stalking in helicopters day and night. That's the P.O.C. They committed kidnapping and they're going to prison, and so is Tracy Banks. This is the criminal system that they're engaging in, and they're very highly unintelligent. As you can see, not clever whatsoever, don't have many resources. They're sounding plane engines, and that's automatically suspect because there's no planes that would be taking off over here. And this level of disruption with plane engines is automatic means of recognizing a deviation from how the airport should be operating. In addition to that, you have the police that are exhibiting severe mental instability when I'm documenting them on a daily and nightly basis, gang stalking by helicopter. And this is when you're just making a brief look at my evidence on an ongoing basis if you're ignorant about the years of evidence that I already have about the entity gang stalking. This is P.O.C. 2:46 a.m. Amplified plane activity. Terminal 2 and Terminal 4 are located at 2900 Airport Road. This is P.O.C. This is disbanding the Ontario Police Department. You're witnessing the exposure of demon possession, and it's inspiring the criminal conduct, and it is the cause of the mental illness that is no longer closeted. And also the entity that is doing so is engaging in criminal monitoring. This is why you see my shadow on the sign over here. While you hear the plane engines, those are the elements of monitoring. They're monitoring. P.O.C. And so are the people of the state. Everybody on this street living in these houses are gang stalking. 630 North Fern Avenue in Ontario, California. 325 West G Street in Ontario, California. 323 West G Street in Ontario, California. As you see the people of the state crossing path while my shadow is appearing way at a distance upright on this sign, they're monitoring. 636 North Vine Avenue. The 7-Eleven, a business establishment, is monitoring, just like Starbucks is, as I document it all day long. This is P.O.C. The city of Ontario is going to be prosecuted. The Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. The kidnappers of the Ontario Police are going to prison. The entity is going to be subject to what are mental examinations for their closeted mental illness that is no longer a secret. It is relevant to the criminal conduct and the diagnosis of actual mental illness. While the entity sought to criminally defame me by gang stalking me, lacking any facts and evidence to establish mental illness on my behalf, but fully demonstrating mental illness while they're gang stalking me. P.O.C. Understand that this is not different from the Ontario Police. They just don't have the Ontario Police logo on them. Psychopaths stalking an engineered light in concert with the government that's up at 2 a.m, all of them stalking me together. This is criminal monitoring. You're going from train to plane to sirens. It's all monitoring in the specific environment. My shadow appearing on the side, on the sign over there. Monitoring, 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 monitoring. And this entire neighborhood is. 302 West G Street, Woodside, monitoring. 408 West G Street, the entire apartment complex, monitoring. I document these license plates. They represent the people of the state who are all monitoring. It's P.O.C. All right, it is currently, again, 2:49 a.m. This is the entity that's engaging in what is trigger finger activity creation. The moment that I move while I'm sleeping, the amplified plane activity that the entity just provided for you, that has nothing to do with taking off from the airport, from the commercial planes, engaging in what are arriving at destinations at takeoff from Terminal 2 or Terminal 4. That's not what this is. This is miles away, and you are not engaging in what is a perpetual takeoff all throughout the city and then rising in elevation 5 miles away from the airport. The entity is engaging in what is stalking in the manner that you witnessed in this video in concert with the Ontario Police that sound sirens the moment that they stop sounding sirens. They started this, I reached for my pocket, they stopped sounding sirens, and the Ontario Police consumed the activity creation. This is P.O.C. This is the evidence against the city of Ontario, the very highly unintelligent terrorists who are going to be shut down. Paul Leon is being removed from office for openly engaging in domestic terrorism as a corrupt mayor, in doing so over the corrupt fire department, over the corrupt police department, over the corrupt airport. Alan D. Wappner is a corrupt the president that's over the airport that's gang stalking, engaging in what is gang stalking all throughout the city of Ontario. They're hovering over the Unicare Health Center. They're hovering over the Ontario, Ovid Family Community, the 280 North Limit Apartments, the Ontario Town Square. They're hovering over the Woodside Senior Apartments right here. They're hovering over the 7-Eleven while I'm there. They're hovering over Euclid Avenue at the Unicare Healthcare Center, if I did not mention that already, at F Street and Euclid, across from the Starbucks where I'm located. I'm documenting the entity maintaining plane activity at every intersection where I'm located, including Holt Boulevard and Euclid, where the Ontario Museum of History and Arts is, flying over the museum, doing donuts, making U-turns. That's called pacing. The entity is maintaining plane activity everywhere in the city, which is not consistent with having an airport. That doesn't mean that you're engaged in what is maintaining amplified plane activity everywhere that you're at, that you're perpetually taking off everywhere in the city, and also at 2 a.m, where the entity is, again, focused on what it is that I state. So then, because I said that they stopped sounding plane engines, then they resumed sounding plane engines for you to witness what they were doing at 2:29 a.m., which is ongoing direct evidence of stalking by commercial planes, where there are no takeoffs that's ever going to be experienced or heard at 325 West G Street when they're taking off at 2900 Airport Road and 2500 Airport Road, Terminals 2 and Terminal 4, where the airlines are publishing the moments when they're taking off from the airports. They're publishing, again, the information about the destinations that they're headed toward, but the entity is at 2:30 and it is currently 2:51. This video is at 18 minutes long, and the entity is maintaining the elements of monitoring while the entity is engaging in what is repeated flights, where the entity is engaging in what is use of commercial planes, gang stalking. And this is why the Ontario Police are hiding around corners. You saw them flying by like a psychopath, a maniac. That light activity is speaking to a demon that's gang stalking. And doing so in this environment. And stalking in the past, pursuant to federal stalking, is what the people of the state are doing. Doing so at 431 West G Street. They're gang stalking with the people of the state by residents. They're gang stalking by stalking in the path with the method of light. This is what the entity is doing. And while the entity sounds plane engines, while the entity sounds sirens, while the entity is in the engineered light, while impossible light is all over the walls while they drive by, while impossible light is all over the place, while my shadows surround me, and my shadow appears on the signage that's at a distance away from me, and the entity's maintaining obvious engagement of what is targeting by the airport, that's the pattern of conduct. All right. And that is the entity that is proving that it is engaged in the POC. And where you see around what I've shown you, the indicators of the crime scene, the specific environment that defies nature, the sun and the moon does not center around me. And this is what the demon possessed surround me by when they're all stalking. And that is, again, the indicator regarding criminal monitoring as well. They're in a specific environment and the demon possessed are mentally ill and they are entirely obsessed with my genitalia and they're obsessed with me, stalking me day and night. And that's exactly what you're looking at here at Fern and G Street. Currently, 2:53 a.m. This is the evidence that is disbanding the Ontario Police Department. I'm going to go ahead and document this third party engaging in surveillance with the City of Ontario, and I will include it on podcast. This is P.O.C.